So without further ado, good evening and welcome to the second With All of You digital launch. And this one is specially dedicated to the latest multimedia collab, which is the result of my good friend, Mr. Josuël Rogers from Rotterdam. There he is. And yeah, Josuël's an interesting cat. He comes from a hip hop background, as you might have gathered from his virtual background there. And so he was an MC and a producer, but these days he's getting up to all sorts of mischief with hip hop. So you can imagine he and I have got a lot in common. You know, we're taking our creative lives out on the streets, into the boardroom and the training rooms to try and influence the way corporate world works, which is an interesting one. So, Josuël, welcome. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, for doing the collab.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I think a good place to start is just to say the poem that Josuël chose was the one called Holy Cows. And yeah, should we just show the video and then talk about why you chose it, or do you want to talk about why you chose it?
Let's show the video and then we go into the why.
Let's do the share. Now we just got to find that window. Where is it open? Yes, of course, because now I've started the Facebook live screen. I can't see that window anymore. Yeah, you would never guess that I do this kind of presenting for a living, like every day. The way this is going. Right.
You know, usually now the default is everyone expects something to go wrong.
I suppose that's true. All right, so, oh, wait a second. Of course, I didn't click share computer sound as well. I'm really having a fantastic evening. Share sound, then share that. Right. Okay, so here it goes. The Holy Cows remix courtesy of Josuël Rogers and David Chislett. Holy Cows.
Remix.
What? So you think this is holy? This thing that is possibly the only thing that has ever wholly been yours?
Of course it's mine, a creation that took time. Universe fishing the hook line, the sinkers, irritated by all you thinkers. You critics, quit it.
We may not poke holes in it, nor poke fun at it, nor disregard it. But I don't understand. If it is so holy, why are you sharing it with us?
Cause it's the greatest gift to you creatures who lust for power. It closes the rift of greed for knowledge and glut. To and I, tire of your slaughter, wrath for that which you disguise, envy in your eyes, swallow your pride.
You don't know us or our ways. Besides, if this thing that you made is so holy, that would imply a godlike source. And you are no paragon of any virtue that I can see. You are just like me, and I am grubbing in the mud here, trying to figure it all out.
Kindness, patience, is that what this is about? Temperance born of chastity, negligence of my charity, due diligence fittingly. What I expect is humility. There is no comparing, you see.
Just because you think you're better than me doesn't make it so. Far less does it make what you write some canon from on high. No, there are no holy cows. There are no lines that cannot be crossed. But that doesn't mean I don't care, that I don't understand. But it does make me wonder if you do. All right. So, yay.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Josuël, there's 49 poems in the book. Why holy cows?
So I'm gonna carry you through the selection process, which was a process on its own. So of course, since we're doing the collab with not only me but with others, I first took a look at which poems already have a designated collaborator. You know, that's even though it was if it's multiple, it's okay. I said now I'm gonna take one that no one has yet, and then the selection was let's have let me read the poems to see if I can kind of see what the poem is about, what is the topic, and then from there look into what can I do with the topic. So that was basically just checking off. I can use this. Oh, this has a great title. Let's see what's in it. okay, this is going to be kind of difficult. And then I came down to, it was, I think, approximately a top 10. So,
Wow.
so I already had to, like, that's already 39 gone, top 10. And then I was like, okay, what can I do with it? So basically it was a quick brainstorm, like, okay, if I read it and then if I hear it, does it trigger me automatically to try and do something with it?
Right.
And Holy Cows was the one that like really triggered. So I read it, I heard it, I was like, oh wait, I can do this with it, I can do this with it. And that one like really came in quickly, where the others, there were two others, and now I can't even remember the titles, but the other two, I could have done something with it, but it wasn't flowing as I would like.
Cool. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So that's how it ended up being Holy Cows.
All right, cool. So, I mean, that's interesting, right? Because essentially the content had very little to do with it. It was more about the rhythm and the availability.
Yeah, and also the kind of also the content. So like I read Holy Cows and I kind of had an idea of, okay, it might be about this.
Right.
So then I can do something with the topic.
Right, right. Okay. Do you want to say what you thought it might be, or shall I tell the story of how I wrote Holy Cows first?
So wait, I'll say what I thought it might be, because then I'll hear the story and be like, oh, okay, I was on the mark, or I'm gonna be like, it was totally off. So
nice.
when I read it and heard it, I interpreted it as, let's say, or someone discussing an idea, so really an idea with themselves, and looking at, hey, or with someone else, or someone else gave someone an idea, and if this idea was feasible, or if usually someone comes up with an idea and they're like, this is the best idea ever, and then actually in reality it's not the best idea. So I kind of interpreted it as a conversation with someone about their idea.
Right. Okay, cool.
And then Holy Cows, of course, in India, the cow is holy. So
yeah. So I mean, that's definitely the extended metaphor. This idea that like there are holy cows, there are things that you're not allowed to criticize, that you're not allowed to attack in any way because they are holy. So the genesis for this poem was actually from a poetry group that I'm a member of on Facebook, and someone had shared something that obviously they felt really deeply about, and then this like extended discussion had erupted, and the person who had shared the work was getting seriously annoyed, to the extent that they were like going, but like, they just didn't get, they couldn't accept any of the feedback, and they were, and I was reading this, I was going, but you put this out there. And this guy's going, this is so personal to me. This is so close to my heart. You don't know the backstory. You can't attack me about this. You can't criticize this. You can't do. And I was going, yeah, but then why did you share it? Like, what is the point? What did you do? And so that's where the title came from, like Holy Cows. It's like, so you're basically saying that this piece of work that you've shared is a holy cow. And then the other level is, of course, the other English word holy, meaning entirely. I thought that was quite fun, so you think this is holy when it's wholly yours. I was kind of like, okay, so you've done this thing and it belongs to you. It's totally yours. Like,
yeah,
no part of it sits outside of your experience. And then you go and put it outside your experience, where you cannot control what's going to happen next.
Yeah,
and then you whine about it. So in a way, this is a bit like, oh, this is actually quite funny. I hadn't thought of this before. It's like those hip hop beef wars that East Coast, West Coast. It's kind of a bit like that,
Yeah.
Some poet put a poem on Facebook and there was a lot of beef. So I wrote a poem about the beef. Except I was a coward. I didn't put my poem about the beef back into the group.
No, you just put it in the book, and you're gonna put it all the way out there on the internet.
Yeah, but with no link back to its origins, except for this discussion.
Except for this discussion, and the people who were in it, let me be like, wait a minute, could he be talking about?
Yeah, because I mean, it was. I think it is actually the Facebook poetry group. There's a thing called the Facebook poetry group, which has got thousands of members from all around the globe. I don't know if any of them have subsequently started following me. I actually stopped sharing stuff in the group after the first few weeks because, well, you know, it's Facebook groups. You know what happens. And yeah, so that was the idea behind the story. But now, what did you do? Because the way I've got a very specific reading of what I thought you were doing. Let's switch roles.
What do you think I was doing?
Well, my reading of what you did is kind of like you took almost like a devil's advocate kind of point of view. You read what I'd said, and then you took the opposite stance to that, and were like saying, "Hang on, who are you to point fingers? You know, is this your holy cow now?"
so what I did, is because I was already reading it as a conversation, but you're not hearing the other end of the conversation. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna be the person who I'm gonna be the idea or the one who created the idea. So that was the first stand. So as soon as the conversation, so I had to specifically look for spots where like, okay, here I can cut him off and continue, and it's gonna sound like it's still a conversation. So then I cut at specific moments, and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with it? And like how you said, it's about someone's holy cow.
Dude, that's spot on. Like, I mean, that's really weird. Like, I was just hearing the devil advocate. I didn't realize that, like, actually you were being the original person. That's so cool.
So in this case, I'm the original poet. And then
you weren't, were you?
And then what I did, because I already saw like, hey, you have the holy cows, you have being a paragon. I was like, okay, you know what I'm gonna do? What is now, you know, what are the criteria for holy in a religious sense? I was like, okay, wait a minute. So first I was like, I'm gonna grab the 7 deadly sins. I'm gonna do something with the 7 deadly sins.
Oh.
So that's where the first yeah, so that's where the first thing come up. Okay, I'm gonna defend my idea, but I'm gonna put you as in the bad guy role, as in, hey, you're committing the 7 deadly sins. You're going against the holy cow. That's 7 deadly sins. You're committing them. And then I took it a little bit broader, also, as not per se you're committing them, but I'm going to call it the audience, or everyone who has an opinion about the idea. And I'm going to put out, okay, why was the idea put out using the 7 deadly sins? And then afterwards, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to flip the second one, because then you're like, but you're no paragon. I was like, I'm going to prove I'm a paragon. So I took all of the 7 virtues and then did something with those.
Yes, that's where that whole where the humility and all those
so that's
nice.
So like in the first, you have, of course, the pride, the wrath, and then I had to do something with gluttony
and greed.
And what they do usually, let's say I'm gonna call it in a hip hop battle, they also take a word, if you hear it, it might not be the word, but if you write it out, then it's gonna be the word. So then I took the word for gluttony, I had to split gluttony. And then for that, I had to double check, does the word glut actually on its own still exist and have the same meaning? So then I took glut, and I split it, and then 2 and I. I'm not gonna say why, but the I is in the Y.
So that. I thought it was a typo gluttony. When I first saw it.
No, it's not a typo.
Gluttony.
I literally wrote it like that for if someone reading it, then they're gonna read it. They're like, oh, wait a minute, they can kind of see it.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Dude, this is so meta. It's so meta, it completely passed me by. That's awesome. I love it.
But and that's like the fun thing about it. You know, you get to create, and then you just get to throw your ideas. So probably if someone who looks at like a lot of battle rap videos or is comes out of that, let's say, circuit, they're gonna read it and they're gonna wait, look to okay, wait, I see that.
I see what he's doing. I see what he's doing.
I see what he's doing there. I see what he's doing with the words. Oh, I see the team.
Right. Ha. I like that. I like that.
So that's where it came from.
Wow. You see, this is why I don't give my collaborators any instructions. I don't set any rules. I don't set any boundaries. I just say, look, pick a pun, do whatever the fuck you want with it. Let's see what comes out. Because this is what happens.
But I mean, the beauty of it is indeed, if you put poetry out there, each person is going to read it from their own perspective and see something else in it and experience it in a different way. Art is the same thing in that sense, that it is what you experience and what you see in it yourself. So it can be something completely different to what you intended. And in that sense, it's also really meta in terms of what this poem, Holy Cows, was about.
Yeah.
In that, yes, people will read something into it to make it relevant to themselves. So you cannot impose your own meaning on it.
Me as the writer, no, absolutely not. I mean, in that sense, I'm very postmodern about all my work. And sharing it on social media taught me very early on that my opinion about the value of my work is worthless. It doesn't mean anything.
Someone is gonna throw rotten tomatoes at it. Absolutely.
And then stuff that you would throw rotten tomatoes at, someone's going to spend a lot of money on and love.
Yeah.
And there's I've given up trying to predict which is which based on how I feel about what I produce. There is no correlation as far as I can tell.
That's like also with being an artist in itself. So in a way, you have to kind of attract your tribe. It's like someone once told me, so he knew a singer or a rapper, and that guy always came with like his stuff, and he was like, you don't give it to me. I'm definitely not your audience. You're gonna have me listen to it, but it's not my thing. While for the other person, like, this is like the greatest thing ever. For someone else, we're like, no, you can take that, go with that back, and then see from there.
But Josuël, I mean, I agree with you, but I have to ask, I mean, is that even possible anymore? I mean, here we are sitting. I mean, I've got a pretty big mailing list. You've got a big network. We've both punted this thing for 2 weeks, and there's 4 of us sitting online, and 2 of us are the presenters. And there's a whole bunch of people on Patreon who pay me money every month to read my poetry, and only one of them's here. This idea of attracting an audience seems to be an increasingly difficult thing to do.
But I think you need a really wide net. I mean, it comes down to that thing that we started off with about the niche, and Josuël, you said as well, yes. You just need to have that match of someone that says, oh yes, that's my kind of thing. Unless your reason for being connected is a lot broader. If it's poetry or music, you need to have some kind of match to sit in the same circle, in the same group. And I guess you would then need a much wider net to be able to get a tribe together that are all thinking alike in certain ways.
And also, if you think on it, that is why, let's say back in the day, everyone would go to open mics or talent shows to show what they have, and then hopefully kind of sprinkle their idea out there that someone is going to say, oh, that was great. Yeah. And what you have now, everyone is still doing it, but where you would back in the day, you would start in kind of your city and make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you know what? There is the internet. Let's
Try and fish out there. Yeah.
let's destroy it. Let's destroy it out. Let's destroy it out there.
Oh, but that's
And
a
then
good
you
point. So it takes way longer.
In essence, it takes way longer, or you kind of get, I'm gonna call it lucky, but luck, you create luck by working towards it, that just that right person is gonna pick it up and be like, oh, this is awesome. And then someone is, oh yeah, this is definitely awesome. And then that it kind of gets rolling like that. It's like with all the memes.
Yeah.
I mean, there are like a bajillion memes way back. There were like a bajillion vines, and then there's just like this one vine that everyone knows, or this one clip that everyone knows. I mean, like, hey, it's Friday. That one, like, all of a sudden, everyone knew it because someone saw it and they were like, oh, this is great. I'm gonna throw it out there, and then everyone's like, oh yeah. So, that's kind of how it works now.
Yeah, it makes me think of back in the day when I was managing bands. Our big mission in life was to get on as the opening act for the current biggest band in town.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. We made a very conscious effort to convert their audience to our sound. And that's how we toured. We went from town to town, playing as the support act for all the biggest acts in that town. Yeah. With the idea being that eventually we'd come back as the biggest act and then get them to support us. And that was kind of the vibe. That's how we did it. Didn't always work, of course, but
but that's how, let's say, back in the day, most people actually did it. Oh. So you work yourself up, and you're like, okay, I want to be an opening act, and then when you are the opening act, you're gonna like put everything into it. You're gonna go crazy. Like,
you're gonna make the big guys look foolish, basically.
That's basically what you want to do, right? You want to make the big guys look foolish. You want to be like the one they remember when they go home.
Yeah. So what's the equivalent of that now? How do you pull that off now? Yeah.
That's a good one. And now people do all kind of crazy antics.
Yeah. Maybe I should start a TikTok channel.
But you see, there's that, and that's also a little bit touching the point there. Is the people today are getting less and less that they can focus on stuff. They're getting bombarded with short meme clip kind of stuff, and they need more and more of instant gratification on that. Instead of being able to focus and appreciate stuff for a longer period of time. I think that's a serious problem with society today, is with social media, and that it's changing our brains and the way we consume information and entertainment. We want little instant, huge polar kind of experiences.
Yeah.
Instead of having the patience to sit it out and enjoy something,
Yeah.
And to give you an example, so let's say it's basically in most music now, but definitely in hip hop, what they do is the tracks are usually like 2.5, maximum 4 minutes, because that's basically the attention span that people have now.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Like, it was a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to call him an old school DJ, because he was one of the big DJs, and he still is, from when I really was enjoying it. And what he did, he said, I'm going to make, first he did 50 MCs on one song, and then he did 100, or it was 110. And it is a YouTube clip of 40 minutes. And like, I grabbed it, I was like, I don't know and I love hip hop. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sit through 40 minutes. Yeah. But then I actually made it through the 40 minutes. I was like, you're watching it, and then you realize also how your concentration span kind of works. And you're like, if you're on your phone, you can like swipe it down and see what other clips there are. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I want to try and just watch it. But then you realize how short your attention span has become.
Yeah, but with 110 MCs, like the focus of your attention is changing every 2 minutes.
Yeah, but that is true.
So that's what keeps you watching.
That's because everyone comes. He did not change the beat. That's one. He kept the same beat. So in my mind, I was like, but usually, like they would put like a switch up for someone. They would switch it up a little bit. To keep it fresh. But he just kept the same beat. And it was actually, of course, since you have like 100 different people, then amazing. That is the change that your brain gets.
Yeah. I mean, I remember again when I was managing bands, like the big thing to get your song on radio to become a hit, the first hook had to break within 30 to 40 seconds. So the playlisting committee would sit and they would put the new track in and they would press play. And if they hadn't heard a hook, that's something that would stick in their brains by 40 seconds, they would just press eject and go to the next one. Bang, forget the rest of the song, how good it was, how deep, how meaningful, how well crafted, this fantastic. No hook in 40 seconds, because apparently that's what their stats show them. When they play songs with no hook, people change channels.
And I think these days that time is becoming shorter and shorter and shorter. You need that hook very quickly, otherwise you swipe to the next.
Yeah, well, that's the Dave Grohl principle, Josuël. Dave Grohl, the Foo Fighters and Nirvana dude. He's got this amazing video where he says how to write a hit, and he basically says start the song with the chorus, start the song with the hook. But like do it a little bit differently, like the same words, but slow it down or put some effects on it. So by the time the big hook comes, people already know it. I was like, man, that's just evil. I mean, it's so clever. And now whenever I hear a Foo Fighters song, that's all I think about. It's like, he started with the hook, man.
Yeah, you're going to break it down. Yeah. Yeah.
But, there's so many songs that do that. Like Jamie's Got a Gun is the one example he gives. And what's the chorus? Jamie's got a gun. It sounds different when you get to the chorus, but you already know it. And that's part of the attention span thing. And when you're a poet, like, how do you even do that? I mean, I don't even get up and perform the same works every time I appear at a spoken word night or an open mic night, let alone start with a hook.
but then I think your audience is already different.
But is it? I mean, we're all living in the same soup.
Yeah, but then you've got a captive audience already.
In that sense, they can't run away.
Well, they're there because they know what they're going to expect. Yeah. But with a pop song or something, you're always trying to attract new listeners.
Yeah, listeners that have it who can walk out the door, literally just change channels or
exactly. And let's say if you're at a venue, you're not really quickly just gonna get up and walk out the door. You're gonna be like, okay.
Well, it's gonna have to be awesomely terrible for me to get up and walk out the door.
It has to be really, there's like a whole lot of like mental steps that you took to get there. I mean, for example, you took a shower, you chose your wardrobe. Yeah, you dressed up, you got in the car, or you got in the bus, you got there, you paid for your ticket, you're like all those steps, and then you're there, you're like, okay, well, then you'll be like, okay, the first one might be, but I'm already here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna wait longer. And if it's like something, for example, YouTube, you're gonna be like, okay, next.
I like that. I like that way of looking at it. Because maybe that's the key to working online as well, that you need to somehow get people committing to steps along the way, that they feel invested already by the time they get to the main event.
But like what I do, because I also give LinkedIn trainings, and I tell people, for example, for LinkedIn, put in like, you can click on see more. As soon as you start by your profile, put in a white line, because there's going to be see more. Someone's going to click on it. they've already invested. They've even step one invested. Okay, I've clicked on see more. I'm going to read it now.
Right, it's popped up. I'm actually going to read this thing.
Yeah, I've clicked it. With everything it is, okay. Every time someone presses I want to see more, they get more invested. You know, it's like the 3 times yes, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Your sale is in. 3 times yes, and your sale is in.
And then this is why people are also now saying that like events like this shouldn't be free. You know, even if you just charge some ridiculously small amount, people are invested, so they're actually going to come once they've said they're going to come, because now they put some money on the table and they're like, well, you know, I should probably get value for my money.
Even if it's like 50 cents, okay, I paid 50 cents. I'm just going to check it out. And if it's, you know, it's a small little ridiculous thing, but I'm going to check it out. And then if it's nothing, then I can just exit. It's online anyway.
Yeah.
But you know, they show up because they've invested, even if it's the 50 cents. It's like with shopping carts here in the Netherlands. You put in, you put it in. You're like, I want to get that.
You're gonna take that thing back. You want your 50 cents back, man.
I want my 50 cents back.
Cool. Hey, Makachani, I see you've joined the call. Thanks, dude. If you've got any questions or you want to say anything, just feel free to unmute yourself. As you can see, this is a bit of a free-for-all, so any input is welcome, sir.
Awesome. Glad. Just listening, just enjoying.
All right, sweet. Thanks, dude. Thanks for coming along. All right, so I guess the logical question is, well, what happens now? So from my side, what happens now is that what do I call it? The collab itself now becomes part of the collab page on my site, and it becomes part of the collab landing page, which is the way I'm going about marketing this whole thing. And you know, it's kind of an ongoing process from now onwards. So you know, if you go to the landing page and you click on the Holy Cows link on the landing page, this is what you're going to see. You see a lovely picture of Josuël there with some great graffiti behind him. There's the video that we saw at the beginning of this session, bit of a blurb about Josuël and links to him, so you can go and see what else he's done. And of course, a link to buy the book, because of course, this is why I'm doing all of this stuff, is I'm you know, this in essence is like a band playing gigs and releasing radio singles. This is what the collabs work as for me as a poet. You know, it's a means to an end.
And if you look, how did you actually come upon the idea of collabing for your poems, actually?
Well, the collabing idea is actually quite for me, it's quite old, because my first collection of poetry, literally 6 weeks before it hit the shelves, well, before it came off the printing press, my mate Bill back in Johannesburg said, "Hey, you know all these musicians. Why don't you ask them to make some songs?" And so I actually released a physical CD with the physical book with 10 songs on it that were made from the poems. And so this time I was like, okay, well, been there, done that, 10 songs. What else can I do? So that's why this time it's multimedia collabs. So never had another person doing like rap with a poem. One of the other collabs is an illustration. Yeah, there's music. I'm speaking to someone who, your mate actually as well, interpretive dance. Also speaking to somebody who's a deaf poet, who's probably going to do a signing version video of one of the poems, which I'm really looking forward to. I've got a couple of graphic designers talking to sort of cartoonist, illustrator. Julian over there is possibly one day in the next 10 years going to do a digital art interpretation of something or other when he's not busy mowing his farm with his tractor. So there's
or playing the guitar
coming along, or playing the guitar, as you can see from his background. so there's a whole bunch of different things still coming down the line, and there's going to be pretty much one of these collabs coming out kind of every month indefinitely, really. But what I wanted to ask was as well on Instagram, you did something really interesting. You posted a little clip of yourself and you said, should I get back on stage? Should I get back behind the mic? And
Oh, I haven't been. I'm gonna say it's so writing again did like really trigger me. Like, oh yeah, this, you get that feeling that kind of bubbles up. Like, oh yeah, this was awesome. Doing, playing with words, because it's kind of what I did before. So like I started writing. And what I would do, so basically it's the same thing with like the 7 virtues. I didn't know what the 7 virtues, I knew some of the 7 virtues, but I didn't know all. So then I would look it up and see what I can do with it. And what I used to do before is I would have a word, then I would like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna grab my dictionary and see what all it has on around that word. What all can I do with that? And that whole process kind of got reignited. I was like, oh, but this is kind of fun. Oh, and if I use the word like this is kind of fun. And then I was like, I like doing this. It's kind of my natural thing to do. But then it's, do I really honestly have the time to do
the perennial question, dude?
Perennial question. Do I have how much balls can I juggle? How much ball, because I also draw, which I haven't done in a long while. So I had a couple of summers back, I started drawing again. I was like, oh.
Why is it whenever you meet someone who's like a really creative person in one discipline, you speak to them long enough and it suddenly emerges they do another one as well? I've never met a musician yet who doesn't also whatever, do
something else. Who doesn't also take pictures or...
And I've never met a top photographer who doesn't also do something else, Once you've opened those gates, man, it just sooner or later you're going to get intrigued by something else, and now you know how to get started. So it just happens.
And I think that's basically with kind of how the creative brain works. I mean, most creatives are like they can be all over the place.
Yeah. Well, you have to. They can keep on collecting dots, man. So you got
you keep on connecting dots. So it's like everything, all of a sudden, everything is a dot. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, this is great. Like, so, for example, I started drawing, but I love Legos. And I'm not the guy. When I was younger, I would start with building what they say, then forget all of that. I have a bunch of blocks. Tick, 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 tick. I'm gonna create what I see. Oh, I'm gonna create a transformer. So then you're already in that creative loop, and then you're like, okay, I can do that. And then you hear something like, oh, wait, probably I can also do that. So let me try that. So I tried, of course, rapping. Also tried actually making beats, so producing. So I was busy in Fruity Loops playing around with that. You kind of
Fruity Loops, man,
you kind of get into everything. Yeah, when it was like a couple of years ago,
you just say Fruity Loops.
And like a couple
you just
of
might say EJ. You just might say EJ as well.
Yeah, old school, man. Yeah, but I mean, that's what I love about it. It's just like it's a continuum. It's never a point. There's always movement.
Yeah, it's always movement. It's always about kind of keep going. Like it's. I mean, Dave, you made it like your job to be busy with creativity.
Yeah.
So then it's like that's like already 1,000 different ways of implementing creativity within businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is ultimately the point, isn't it? Is that I think for me that's the whole thing about being creative, is that it just opens a door, and kind of like every time you open that door again, you're looking out at a different view. So the one day it's like, oh, drawing, oh, let's make some beats, oh, let's make some music, oh, let's make some poetry. I mean, I've started teaching myself how to sculpt with soft stone, with little chisels and files and stuff, just because, I mean, I've always wanted to. I still don't have a clue how to do it, but I can, so I am. you know, and I think, you know, it's that kind of, I mean, it's funny because being creative in an artistic sense is very vulnerable. You know, you're really putting yourself out there.
Yeah, holy cows, huh?
Right.
Holy cow.
Hey, it all connects. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well done. Otherwise, I'm just kind of going off on a tangent here. But at the same time, it gives you a degree of fearlessness where you suddenly go, oh, I did this thing where I had no clue what I was doing. And it actually, you know, I didn't die. It turned out okay. And then you're brave enough to try the next thing. And then you kind of go, okay, I didn't die. Like, it didn't go terribly. Okay, some people hated it, but some people. And then, you know, after a while, you begin to realize that all that matters is carrying on doing stuff, not anything else at all.
And but I also think, of course, being in the creative space, that there's no creative person that didn't have that someone had a negative reaction on what they did. You know, I mean, oh no, that drawing sucks. No, that rap sucks. That poem was nothing. No, the performance. And after a while, you know, the ones who continue are the ones who've kind of created, I'm going to call it the fearlessness, because they were, okay, well, somebody they already told me this sucked, but I'm going to still continue. And then you could have someone who had the holy cow, who would most likely have maybe that one holy cow experience and never share anything again.
Yes.
And from there, maybe even never dare to be creative again, because
it's a good thing I didn't put the poem back into that group, right?
But it sounds almost like you need a thick skin to start with, and if you don't have that to start with, you may not start. So you need to be prepared to push through and accept any criticism without taking it too harshly, because only once you keep going do you get to a stage where more people say, oh, but that's good. You don't become an expert at something from the first day. You have to do it. And with art and creativity and something where it's about appreciation from others, you're always going to start with more critics than appreciators.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Sorry, Josuël, carry on.
And it's kind of having a thick skin, or being adaptable enough to, let's say, grow the thick skin.
Yes.
Yeah, and not everyone's willing to do that. But what I was going to say was that maybe what's wrong with this picture, because I mean, Julian, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's, you know, I think a lot of people stop because they just don't have the thick enough skin. And I think that's kind of, you know, this whole idea about what it means to be an artist, what it means to be a creative, is on such a pedestal so often that our expectations are massive. And we don't see that arena as somewhere where we can and should and will fail. And so whenever there's setbacks, whenever there's criticism, people take it really poorly, because it's like cognitive dissonance. It's like, oh, wait a second, but I'm making art. Like, what? Oh my God, you can't criticize me. And it's like a you know, in philosophical terms, it's a category error. It's like, no, it's just like everything else. You know, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. You're gonna fail.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it really hurts people, because their expectations are just so out of whack with how it really works.
And that is also a lot of people don't realize that the guys and gals that you see, those are the survivors.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is it.
You often hear the thing about how bad it is for folks to experience talent shows, because they are put off by it, because they immediately think, oh, I will never be as good as that. So from the outset, they're comparing themselves to the top of the range, and that immediately puts them off. I think that's also a product of our society being, oh yes, we want to give you clips of the best of the best of the best, and all of that to give you that fix of, oh, these are brilliant, these are the most, these
Yeah.
are the best sportsmen, these are the best magicians, the best singers, the best
Yeah.
everything, all squashed up, and then people are just overwhelmed by that. Oh, but then I'm not going to start playing guitar because look at what I have to compete with. And,
Shortcuts.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
yes, and instead
Is it even right?
instead of us competing with ourselves and saying, but if I learn to play one note, then tomorrow I am a million times better than I was today. People lose that kind of way of looking at things.
Yeah. Makachani, sorry, you were trying to say something, dude.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering what Julian was saying. Like, I mean, people do that a lot, but is it even right to compare art? You know, is that something you can compare and like be like?
Oh no,
this is
certainly. I don't think.
better
No,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
no.
when I was managing bands, I always had a huge issue with battle of the bands. You know, it's just like, okay, so you got a hip hop crew, you got a heavy metal crew, you got some punk rockers, you got some middle of the road pop guys, and now some dude's going to give this one 6 out of 10 and that one. I'm like, on what basis? You know,
Exactly.
so it's always that's a rocky road, man.
But even what I was only referring to is even just the technique, or just the learning the technique before you get to the stage of even creating art. So you need to be able to write and read before you can create poetry. You need to be able to play notes and chords on a guitar before you can write songs in it. And people don't even step up to that range because they are overwhelmed by what technique it may take to be able to get to the point of being able to create.
And isn't it then so for, I'm gonna say that the real creators are the ones that actually keep trying to create it. So because you have and it could be that it actually starts from real young. You know, if I'm gonna take drawing, so I started drawing. I mean, everyone starts with a stick person. You know, everyone starts with a stick. Everyone starts with a stick person. If you give me a 2-year-old who can draw my likeness, please do let me know, because then I would like to be before anyone out there to be the one managing that person. But you kind of learn to like create, and then it's also that the thick skin that comes with later on each step of creation. You know, okay, you've created the stick man. Oh, wait a minute, someone created better. I'm gonna try to create it better. That's one. Or you get the branching paths. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna try and create it better, or
I'm gonna give up.
I'm good in my lane, or I'm gonna give up. So you got like those 3 branches, and then the branch just keeps going.
Yeah.
And then later on you get in the realm, and then mostly those are people who are already kind of creative and don't have like, some are still perfectionists, but realize that, hey, I gotta work towards my perfection. You kind of get like what David is. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna do something with sculpting. I've had in my head, you know what? I'm gonna teach myself to play the violin. I still haven't bought a violin, because then of course I'm the guy that's gonna look like, oh, but then I need a good violin to start with. You know, you kind of you get that
familiar.
Yeah, you know, I want to play the violin, but you know, I want a good violin, not you know, you're gonna start reading about violins. And you know, don't get this one because that's the sound is useless.
Yeah. And then you're no longer busy with the thing. You're busy with the story about the thing.
You're busy about the story around the thing.
Yeah.
You know,
I like that. I like that idea of learning from an early age, and actually, it's a case of it's not what you know, it's knowing how to learn. That's more
Yeah,
important,
exactly.
because that'll grow the lot exponentially. And I think with creativity, it's the same. It's not what you are creative in, it's the process of being creative, and that is why you can apply it to different areas.
Absolutely. That's exactly how I explain it. I mean, people always mistake creativity, the process, with a particular product.
Yeah.
So for me, art, generally music, poetry, painting, theater, is a product of the creative process, in the same way that the iPhone is a product of a creative process, and like finally solving that problem that you've been facing at work is a product of the creative process. And so we get into this, like, again, a category error where we're mistaking one thing for the other. It's not about the business skills or the music skills or the technical skills. It's about the ability to synthesize, regurgitate, amalgamate, change, fantasize, imagine through the lens of the skill that you bring to the table. And that's where the magic happens. You know, you got to have that creativity muscle well exercised, so that when you bring the lens of a particular skill, you know, stuff happens in that field. But we're just totally misled by all the bells and whistles, all the shiny stuff, instead of the process.
But it's also what, like you said, the bells and the shiny stuff, those are considered to be creative things. You know, like, oh, somebody look at that painting from Picasso. Oh man, that's creativity. So everyone gets speed. That's creativity. While someone, let's say, getting up in the morning and choosing the clothes that they are gonna wear, that is already a creative process, because you kind of grab, oh, I'm gonna wear this today. Oh, I'm gonna take the blue. I find the blue matches good with the white. You know, that's already is like a whole creative process, where a lot of people don't even realize that is also the creative process.
It's so natural to us that we don't realize that it's creative.
Yeah.
That's absolutely it.
Because the creative thing is something that's totally new and has never been done before.
Yeah, it's got to have huge value. Come on, people. Anyway, it's nearly 9 o'clock, which means we should probably stop before we bore the pants off everybody who's on Facebook, which is great. There are actually 4 people. There were 5 on the Facebook Live, so that's really cool. Thank you for tuning in and watching us yap. And I hope lots of you watch the playback later on as well.
Where is that going to be on your Facebook?
Yes.
I see there's something on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, I just put a quick link on LinkedIn to let people know that this was actually happening. So that link was actually to this, as opposed to the Facebook thing, which I will post a link to the actual Facebook thing on LinkedIn as well, Mokjani. In fact, I'll probably just send you a message so that you can see it. There's a link to the digital link where you can buy the book, whatever ebook you prefer to consume. Trust me, I'm on all of them. And there's also an audiobook version. So if you've enjoyed this conversation and now you're intrigued about the poems, please go and buy yourself a copy. I've also, of course, put the link to the collab with Mr. Josuël. And there's links to his Bandcamp and his sites and stuff. So please go and check him out, because clearly, as you will have seen from this conversation, this cat knows his stuff and he's doing some pretty amazing things. So I would really love it if you go and check him out. And that's also the purpose of this whole process from my perspective. So, Josuël, it's been an honor, sir. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you for reaching out to me to do it. It gave me again a creative spark.
Awesome.
Reigniting an old creative spark. Let's put it like that.
That's my bag. That's what I want to do. So thank you, sir. And to Julian, Mokjani, and Mark, who was on the call but had to leave, thanks so much for being there. And to everybody on Facebook Live who was here for the live session, awesome. Thank you for coming along to watch it. Till next time, because there will be a next time. Thank you.
Cheers, gents.
Bye.